Hi, David.
Oh,
How are you?
I have to shut off the radio here. Okay, hold on. Can I hear you? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome
Hey,
to.
David.
Perfect.
I was wondering if you were listening before we had you on.
I just found your station like a couple minutes ago. It took me a while to get it started. I don't know. It was a little confusing, but yes, I listened to a drop of
Alright.
you guys just talking about me, basically.
Oh, you didn't hear? We
Well, I
had.
wanted to make sure we called you promptly at 3 because we've had, I know we spoke on the phone last week, and I wanted to have you on, and
Sure.
just had so many guests at all different hours in different countries. It's just been insane trying to schedule and accommodate everybody. Earlier today we had, in fact, Ryan Dempster on, pitcher for the Texas Rangers, whose
Okay.
daughter actually is impaired with the 22q deletion syndrome. But before I go any further, we have 3 hosts. We just so you know, we've been up now roughly
We're entering our 43rd hour.
43rd hour. And David, this is my friend and co-host Johnny Sepp. Johnny Sepp, this is David.
David, pleasure to meet you. We actually played together in Tunica, Mississippi, I think, and I'm not sure the year. It was either like '05 or '06, I think.
It probably had to be around that long ago. I probably haven't been there probably in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, so that's about the time frame. Then I guess it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago.
Hmm.
But I don't
Sure.
know. It could have been another casino. I've played in a lot, but I do remember specifically playing with you in a prelim event.
Hmm.
So nice to meet you, though. Nice to
Nice to meet
conversate
you.
with you. Actually, what I'm curious about, I'm sorry, Brandon. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to, introduce you guys. And David, I know we talked on the phone a bit last week. Are you familiar at all? Just, before we start, have you had any chance to, either on Twitter or just from our website to find out, or are you aware at all about what 22q deletion is?
Be truthfully, no, I haven't.
Okay, that's fine. Johnny, as you're the most eloquent person in explaining, would you please educate David for us?
Sure. It's a 22q 11.2 deletion syndrome. It's an affliction that 1 in 2,000 kids suffer from it, but it goes undiagnosed a lot. We've had so many people explain it, and I'm getting tired, David. I'll be honest with you, but
I understand.
it's a disease that's prevalent in children that goes undiagnosed a lot, and they really need to raise awareness for it. So that's what one of their efforts is, us doing this insane 50-hour radio show in order to draw attention to their cause. And we know poker. We do a radio show every Thursday night anyway. That one's usually about 3 hours. And one of us had the crazy idea of let's do it for 50 hours and see if we can get a buzz going. And so far it's been effective.
I guess a good way just to explain it, since we're also retired, this is what's in our press release. And we've had doctors and people from the foundation on. The 22q 11.2 deletion causes a number of medical problems, including cardiac defects, developmental delays, as well as hearing loss, gastrointestinal and feeding difficulties, and blood disorders, just to name a few of the many health issues with children with the 22q deletion. And this is something that children obviously are born with. And again, the organization that we're doing this for is it's called the 22q.org Foundation. And I guess one of the champions of in terms of raising money and just notoriety because of his status, like I mentioned, is Ryan Dempster. He has a little girl named Riley who was diagnosed and born with this, and he's just because of his prominence, he's been able to bring a lot of attention to this. And anyhow, that's where we are. And Johnny, talk to Dave for a couple minutes. I just need to get a drink real fast, and I will be right back. And
Absolutely.
I know, and we can get to a lot of things I want to talk about. David, everyone knows, David, has been a poker pro for many years. And David, we've had so many poker players on. I wanted to, when we all talked.
I
about
kind of
this,
want to talk about his other career.
Absolutely, and that's what I think is very interesting. And even I'm surprised how many people in our chat. We have an interactive chat. know about what you did before poker. So you guys start talking. I will be right back. And again, David, thank you.
Where do I see that chat?
It's on our website. If you have to, right now you're listening to our radio, so you're going to have to open our website again in a new window, and then there's a live chat button. You can look at the chat. We all know you as a poker player. I know you as a poker player. But I guess prior to poker, you had a really, really interesting job. And Brandon tells me that you have a ton of great stories from it, and I'm just kind of interested in maybe hearing about the job, and whatever you're willing to share with us would be awesome.
Okay, well, you just go ahead. I mean, back going back to the 1980s, I was a rock and roll photographer. Basically toured around the world.
Were you freelance, or did you work for certain bands, or?
I did a number of different things. I mean, I would, sometimes I worked for the band, sometimes I worked for magazines, sometimes I started out as a fan. And then got good, got known, met a few people. I started working for magazines. I worked for Billboard, Rolling Stone, numerous, rock and roll magazines, books. Been published all over the world, all over, or every kind of media. I did it throughout the whole 1980s, basically photographing, like I said, every rock and roll band there ever was that existed around that time frame.
Who was your favorite?
I'd still say my favorite is the Rolling Stones.
How many times did you actually photograph the Rolling Stones?
Yes, I did photograph the Rolling Stones. Back early in my career, basically, back in the early 80s, 81, basically. It's basic. It was a fun, good job when it started. Once it turned into a business, kind of like poker. Once you got to rely on it, it gets a lot harder to do. But it was good while it lasted. If anyone wanted to see my pictures, they can go to my website at www.erockphotos. That's just how it sounds, the letter E, and then rock photos. And you can see basically how I lived my life way before poker.
Did you tour with the bands, or did you just travel independently?
At times I did. At times I would be, I'd work for some bands. I'd go on the road with them. A lot of times, I would just get assignments to, fly to. I photographed. I used to live in London a lot every summer and photograph all the bands over there. I shot Live Aid in England in 1985. Just numerous, different historical rock and roll events and so on.
I feel like the 80s, that's almost like the perfect time to be, obviously I don't know for sure, but I'm just speculating. Mm-hmm. The perfect time to be a rock and roll photographer would have been in that time era, because it was kind of I want to say kind of like an anything goes environment. Was it just one long continuous party for you?
It ended up being. When I started out when I was 16 years old, and I really wasn't much of a partier until I moved out to California, when the whole roof came down, basically. But and I met certain people that exposed me to too much madness that I couldn't control myself either, basically. Yeah. So it got like that, and so yeah, it ended up being one long party, which basically was a lot of the downfall. But it like I said, it was it was nothing regret. I loved doing it when I did it. I'm friends with a lot of people that I see from back in the day. And it's just it was a life to live.
Now
I'm back, by the way. I'm sorry, and David, I apologize for leaving.
No problem.
Just very often now, my voice is just
sure.
So I have to keep getting drinks, and I'm pounding water and Gatorade. But
no problem, Brandon.
What are we talking about?
David was just getting us up to speed on his career as a rock and roll photographer. We were talking a little bit about traveling with the bands and the party lifestyle that came along with it, and we're just kind of going from there.
And I don't know if this was mentioned, but I just want to say it so I don't forget while it's on my mind. Um, David, your Twitter name is it's your exact name, right? David
Yeah,
Plastik.
David Plastik, exactly.
And
With a
anyone
K, you know.
that loves, especially rock and roll, what David commonly does, and we're going to talk more about this, is uh, I don't know, and you can explain how this all started, but I guess it's a tribute. Anytime there's relevancy to a band member's birthday, or I think in some
Or
cases
death,
even
or
I was just going to
yeah.
say that. It's funny you mentioned that because our show kind of does the same thing. It seems like every the last couple months, every time we're on the air, someone very famous passes away, and we pay tribute. In fact, while we were on the show doing this, unfortunately, and just very, very sad, Michael Duncan Clark passed away, and Andy Griffin has passed away on the day of our show. We just had like a string of 6 weeks in which that happened. But whether it's a birthday or unfortunately a death, David takes that opportunity to pay tribute to just such a wide variety of bands that he's either interacted with, taken pictures of, just
It's all my photos, basically. So it's
Absolutely.
everything that I have,
And-
everything that I actually have photos of. If I have a photo of someone whose birthday, like I said, any kind of rock and roll history, it's kind of a cheap way of promotion to where I don't look like I'm spamming.
and it's not. It's really, really just
No, and that's otherwise I'm not going to sit there and post buy my photos. People will figure it out, but it just gives them a little tidbit, a little so and so, and
absolutely.
It's what the social media is
I
for.
encourage everyone that's listening. Definitely, he is one of the names that for those that are on Twitter, you should definitely add, especially if you like rock and roll or music in general. You'll love some of the stuff you'll see. So, Johnny just actually went to get a drink real fast, so now it's just you and me for a second. But please continue on where you left off in terms of just how you arrived to where you are now, and just your trials and tribulations, and everything before poker and leading up to it. And just please, the floor is yours.
Well, like I said, I back in the whole decade of the 1980s, when I was 16 to about 25 years old, I was a rock and roll photographer. I got out of the business at the end of the 80s. Then I was living in California. Came across poker a few times. And basically had visited Commerce on a bike. And eventually did it recreational, played a little weekly game, nickel and dime, literally nickel and dime game. I mean, 25 cents was a big bet. And it was just all just fun stuff until I basically came across Commerce too many times that came, and tried my go at it. And eventually, around 96, 97, I was able to turn it into a career, which has been for the last 15 years.
And you were someone that I guess I don't want to say took advantage of, but was, I guess, a part of a lot of publicity, in ESPN and in magazines when the poker boom unfolded. I know for, I guess you can tell me the dates better than I could, but I know, around at least 2003, 2004, you received a lot of coverage on the World Series of Poker each year. And I can't remember exactly what, but I know there are, when they used to have the different segments like the nuts and just other various things, you participated in some of those as well. Is that correct?
Sure. Everyone, a lot of people know me. I'm more of a personal kind of guy. I'm I guess what you would call as a character, so people like to talk with me. They always think I have something interesting to say. So ESPN always did that, and they constantly interviewed me every year. I had a few good years in 03 and 05. I made it pretty close. I got 30th in 03, the year Moneymaker won. So I got a little coverage then, and so on. And a couple years later, and a few other a few other instances. And yeah, no, I definitely was in many spots at those times, at the during those broadcasts, and it definitely paid off. I had a few really good years then also. So people, they just tried to highlight me and so on, and say what I had to say.
And also, just from getting in that time and how long ago you got in poker, way before the boom, you have a lot of friends that I guess, no offense, obviously, or just would be considered old timers, and
Sure.
maybe not in the sense of the true sense of the word, but the way poker is now with so many 20 somethings. That's that's what I'm referred to, and I'm in my mid 30s. So you kind of run around with that old. Just that scene that was way before any of us were even around. What were the games that? I know you mentioned Commerce, but in Vegas, where did you originally start playing in Vegas when you made Vegas your home, or spent the majority of time here?
I first moved to Vegas in 2000. I think I came here a couple times before that. I basically would start playing at the Mirage and the Bellagio. Those were in 2000. Those were the main places. Unfortunately, a couple of months after 9/11, poker kind of disappeared all over, and places started to close. Other rooms started to close, and and then eventually made a comeback. But the Mirage and the Bellagio was definitely my start, and of course the tournaments at the World Series, the tournaments at the Carnival Poker, the Hall of Fame, the Four Queens. All those other Vegas things that used to happen back in around 2000, 99, before poker really hit the online, where if you were 35 years old, which I was when I started, you were the young person in poker. I was the young person in poker at 35 years old, and now I am way an old timer at 48. But but even at 35, I'd be an incredible old timer.
I guess back then, who were the type of players that obviously now are your peers, and I guess in a lot of cases your friends that you played with?
There were a lot of just the old tournament rounders that you always had. You had the TJ Cloutiers, you had the John Benettis, you had all these other, big names, Ted Forrest, and all these other people that were really big back then. Of course, you got Doyle and so. But yeah, basically that kind of crowd. That's who it was. That's who was there. Back then. Poker was a different game back then. We didn't get to play for the huge money that you get to play for now, which is it was one tournament a month. We all went to get everyone basically went from city to city and grinded up a tournament or so.
David, I'm sorry, I'm back now. I just stepped to get a drink. My voice is starting to go a little bit. I apologize if you guys addressed this while I was gone. What do you prefer, the state of poker now or back when you started? Is it more of a? I would imagine it's, while there was a more concentrated number of high level players back then. I would imagine it's tougher now simply due to the sheer size of it and how accelerated the learning process is for younger people now. And I'm wondering what you prefer, what climate you prefer.
Oh, I think I preferred a long time ago. I think it's, even though it's great that it's gotten so big, it's gotten too big where, you have all the, we didn't have the controversy back then. We didn't have the online scandals. We didn't have it taken away from us. We didn't have the, just known for, when something gets more bigger, more things happen. And unfortunately, poker's been a victim of something that just always happens in poker. You have all just kinds of unfortunate scandals that, have ruined the game. And it's all because of the money that's made in poker. If it wasn't such a huge, people just really throw around millions of dollars like nothing. You hear about these right now. It's too big. $1 million tournament, really? I mean, $250,000 rebuy tournament in Macau last week. It's just it's too big. The money is, if you have that kind of money to gamble, I don't know. I just think it's a little kind of too crazy. That's my view.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
Okay.
Brandon, just so you know, my father's playing my account.
I'm joking.
I see you tilting over there or whatever happened.
I'm making a joke because of the last guest we had on.
David, you've grinded the circuit and played all over. What's your favorite stop to play on, either then or now or whenever throughout your career?
I always had a good time in California. I mean, I've been all over the world. I've actually played in more countries than I've played in states. I've played all over Europe. I played in Moscow. I played in the Caribbean. I've been to all over Asia and played in the Philippines, Singapore, Macau, Australia. I mean, it's a good experience. It's a great way to travel playing poker.
Do you think you adapted to the grind better because of your background in photography and doing all that traveling?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, even though during the 90s I did have a regular job, I've always been a kind of experienced traveler, and I've always, done things. So I've always been able to, so I was very used to it. It just never had anything tie me down. So I was always able to go on these trips,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I've been everywhere, before, and this is before. I mean, I played in Moscow back in 2000. And it's a lot different now, Same with
what was going on in Moscow in 2000 for poker?
There was actually a little poker tournament. Jeff Lissandro, who we all know, was running a casino over there. Casino, I think it's called Casino Moscow or something to that effect. He had a business over there. He had a poker room, and and since he's Australian, he was friendly with people like Mel Judah and Marshall Wagner and Kenneth James, and they all arranged a poker tournament over there, and so on, at his poker room. So this was before Jeff had the World Series fame that you all know him for. This was way before that. He was just a high limit. He was more of a businessman, and until he needed to, and so that's this is before Tony G. Before all that kind of stuff. I'm looking at the chat, so I'm trying to respond
there are some kind of crazy questions. A lot of people want to know about the partying and rock and roll days.
Of course, they always want to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I want to. As I explained, you're someone I know personally. I don't want to put you on the spot or ask you anything that you don't want to talk about. But of course, people know that. That's what they want to know. They want to know about that lifestyle, that rock and roll lifestyle back in the 80s. So you're looking at the chat. So whatever.
It was definitely a rock and roll lifestyle. Yeah, we'll get into it, I'm sure.
Okay.
But it was. So we were talking about. I guess what were we just talking about? You already lost my train of thought.
You were talking about Jeffrey Lissandro playing the Russian.
Okay, so Russia. Yeah. So that's basically what it was. But it was a really terrible tournament. It was funny. It was a poor attended tournament, poorly put on. It definitely wouldn't have been Alan Kessler approved or anything like that. It definitely would have been like it was so unorganized. It was scheduled to start at 2 p.m. and they would start at 7 p.m. It was just very it left a really bad mark on Russia, but the cash games were unbelievable, and I did make a lot of money, and I was able to get out of Russia with it, which is a real task. You have to basically sneak your money out. And since it was before 9/11, I was able to keep 10,000 in each shoe. So I was basically about 3 inches taller with about $20,000.
So you left Russia with 22 10K bricks in each shoe?
My shoes, yeah. Because you got to declare your. It's funny. Moscow's like you can only leave with what you brought in. So I had won like 20 grand.
I mean, that's probably why the tournament was poorly attended. No,
I know. I know, David, from just I remember reading on the news a number of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that they shut down all casinos in Moscow and just in the bigger cities, and basically relegated them. I'm not sure if like to Siberia, but just cities that had very small populations. And from what I read, those casinos were just infiltrated by organized crime, and the casinos itself were just corrupt. And I mean, in terms of just even winning money and being able to safely leave. Did you ever experience any of those casinos and just that kind of shadiness?
Well, I felt that little. Oh yeah, well that's even though Jeff's a friend of mine, he definitely was shady. And, but he's it was definitely, well, he he offered to help us get the money, but not really anyone was really trying to trust him on that, or he really didn't have enough experience with him to say, oh, okay, can you wire this money for me? We all tried to go to, it was all not known. We just weren't aware of that, and we all basically tried to get Chavez checks, and then it was just like a last-minute surge, and you couldn't even get them anymore. The world was a lot different back then. You really couldn't get things that you can get now.
Just in general, it sounds like those times were just, the things almost like high school. You kind of reflect back and wow, I miss those days. Do you ever sit back and just kind of long for those days, even though we, in reality, we that, times like that or life evolves, and just moments like that aren't coming back. It's a different time now, a different era. I mean, do you miss it? Do you miss that time?
Of course, I try to, yes. I mean, I definitely like my life. Remember a lot of times back then, but I also realized that the world is pretty advanced now. Yeah, I remember when I didn't have to, where I didn't have to have a phone in my pocket everywhere I go.
And by the way, the chat is telling us they want both me and Johnny just to shut up and let you talk. They seem pretty interested. So I'm just gonna be quiet. Go ahead and just talk, please.
Yeah,
everyone's loving it.
And basically, you couldn't, where you couldn't do, you didn't have to, you wouldn't have to be any. I'm addicted to the internet now. Sometimes I wish I couldn't be. You can't get away from it. You can't get away from, so yeah, of course, you remember the old times, remember when you couldn't do this, but you also love it that you can do things like, well, I was going to say play online poker, but we really can't do that. So, what you can do is, but it's, and it was less mad. Like I said, the poker back in the day was less madness. Poker is just, I don't know, it's just, there's too much going on, and I'm trying to take a break from it, so we'll see. But I'm considered a legend here. Wow, okay.
You're very, very popular amongst our chat, David. You're listen, I'll tell you this much. We have had Chris Moneymaker, Greg Raymer, Daniel Negreanu, Norman Chad, and a slew of other guests on, and I don't think they've said that you're a legend. They haven't said anybody's a legend until you, so you should definitely be.
If anyone who doesn't know I am, just use Google. There's some guy just still is debating on who I am. Anyways, getting back to the rock and roll life, a lot of, one of my main people back, Sam Kinison and Guns N' Roses and all that kind of stuff I used to hang out with, and there was a lot of really kind of responsible for my for a lot of partying and met drug madness back in the 80s, which but it was all fun back then. The world was different then. If anything goes, you could get away with it, but now I think that stuff really just doesn't go on anymore. It's a different world. I definitely don't want to, people always ask me, why don't I keep doing this, or why don't I keep taking pictures or so and so. I don't know. It's just a different world, and I kind of choose not to go crazy in it anymore. But, why don't you...
Do you miss it?
Like I said, I miss it at times, and at times I'm like, oh, I lived it. You can only take so much of it. You know.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Getting too old. I mean, I still like to go out, and I still like to, go to a lot of concerts and do this and do that. But a lot of stuff was good for when I'm young. I mean, now everyone just goes to the clubs, So
I've noticed that more than anybody. Just from your Twitter and just knowing in general, you go to like almost every rock and roll concert, and I shouldn't even say just rock and roll, but you go to more concerts in Las Vegas, and I think I've seen a lot, in LA and other places, other venues more than anybody I know.
I take
Sometimes
advantage
say
of the
to myself,
perks.
yeah, I was just gonna say sometimes. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, do you pay for all those shows? 'Cause I remember
No,
asking myself,
no, I barely paid for a show ever.
yeah, because I was just gonna say. I mean, you're talking top-notch artists whenever they're in Vegas. Just you're at every show that is a big-name band, or just. And again, we're not talking like going to Boulder Station and seeing some irrelevant '70s group that had a one-hit wonder. You go to really every gig that there is all over town, and I've always wondered about that. That it had to be pricey.
I couldn't afford. No, I couldn't afford it. I find ways to get in. Being like I said, being in this business for so long, a lot of people.
I don't know what the name is anymore, David. I used to actually work there about 9 years ago. It was my last job at the Hard Rock, the Joint. But I know that's a place that probably know you by name. I know you've seen quite a few shows at the Hard Rock.
Sure, I was there on. I was there on Saturday and Sunday. When was that? I was there. I was there on Sunday. B.B. King and Susan Tedeschi played there. Went to see that show. Went to see a few other shows the week before. It was Ziggy Marley who played Friday, where I was at. Saturday, I did something Saturday, too. And Saturday, I was basically passed out. Ended up at a pool party with Danny Masterson, who also likes to play poker.
From that 70s show?
That 70s show, yeah. He's a good friend of mine. I met him through poker.
Wow.
Back about 8-9 years ago, him and the rest of the cast from that 70s show were interested in poker, and they basically looked a few of us up, and I was one of the people. I was working for Card Player at the time, and they came to us for help, and I've been friends with them ever since. So I ended up at a pool party with them.
Wow. I know that at least a couple years ago, I remember trying to think of her name, but the tall redhead.
Yeah, Laura Papon.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like she, for a while, was trying to take poker pretty serious. I know she played in a couple main events, and then it seems just the last couple of years I haven't really heard much about her. But was she someone else that you played with?
Yes. Yeah, we all played with them. We played in a few home games with them. They both played the main event a couple times back in those years. And she's they're both, they're very serious about it. I can tell you that. They played in some pretty big games. I'm sure even bigger than the ones I've been in with them. So I definitely got a lot of money. So
Absolutely, yeah, that helps.
All these big celebrity games.
What bands did you party with back in the '80s?
Well, Guns N' Roses was bands like Metallica, Megadeth, a lot of metal bands. Sam Kinison was like my band of Poison.
Did you ever form close friendships with members of these bands? Or was it just
sure? No, I'm still good friends with a lot of them. Still when they come to town, they remember me from back in the day. Some, like I said, a lot of them. It was. I ran into Slash like a year ago. He was doing something for Poker Stars, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, he played in some.
That's a sign of the times, huh?
He played in the Caribbean. He did the Caribbean. He was down there for the Caribbean tournament. They flew him down there. I think he played a tournament there, and then he played something here, and he's PCA, whatever you want to call it, the PCA.
Right.
And let's see, and that's about those kind of people.
I was a huge fan of Guns N' Roses. I think that was probably my favorite band in the '80s, and then later on, I loved Velvet Revolver, which I'm sure you were a fan of as well.
I like them, but kind of I don't know. I'm not really convinced they had any good songs.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah. I just it's a good formation of people, but I don't know. I saw him a couple of times. I'm not a big fan of Scott Weiland. I don't know. He's just that guy's a lot of drama, too much drama.
Well, I mean, I know a lot. I know obviously it's just been all over the news, and it was never a secret the battle he had with heroin, for many, many, many years. And I guess you know better than I. I was under the impression the last couple of years he had gotten his act together, but maybe not. I don't know. It just seems he's not in the news anymore for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but I think he's not in the news because the band's not in the news. It's basically that. He's no longer kind of. I mean, he's still around. I think they're playing here in Vegas. Within the next 2 weeks, I want to say.
No, I want to ask you something, and it's more about music, so I hope you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
As I mentioned, my favorite band growing up in the '80s, the mid-late '80s, was Guns N' Roses, and I remember seeing them. I think I was 14 years old on New Year's Eve at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, and a band that at that point no one had ever heard of, named Soundgarden, opened up. Or I shouldn't say no one had heard of it. They weren't mainstream at the time, and they were the opening act. And then there was that delay for a couple years, and the anticipation before Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 came out, which I don't know. I could probably just guess you're going to say, meh. There were some good songs in there, but probably overall it didn't really appeal to you. And
no, that's wrong. I mean, I do. Okay. I'll interrupt you and then say, no. I think the first Guns N' Roses album was probably one of the best rock and roll albums ever. I saw them before I knew who they were. They were just like you were saying. They were third on a bill with opening up for Ted Nugent and a band called Black and Blue, which was another LA Hollywood 80s band. And Guns N' Roses was third on the bill. Their album was not out yet. They were known in Hollywood, but I just hadn't moved to Hollywood, so I only really didn't. I wasn't familiar with the scene yet, and didn't think really much of them right away. But then all of a sudden the album came out, and they became the biggest thing in the world. And still, that album is amazingly good. So, yeah, but I'm not a big fan of anything that was done after that. So, yeah, I guess you could say I am critical on a lot of stuff, but but I'm also a big fan of a lot of it. So,
what I want to ask you, a few years ago, actually, it was more than a few years ago, probably 2004 or 5, I saw. I guess, and I hate even saying this, but I saw Guns N' Roses, or what they still called Guns N' Roses, since Axl, retained the name at the Hard Rock. And I don't know if you might have even been at that show. I know they had to perform. Yeah. And
okay.
I've read a lot and tried to understand it. And this is what my question was, and I'm sure you can explain it to me. What happened? I mean, obviously, it's been, I from what I've read, and I've read a lot about it, Axl's always been a very eccentric person. He's somebody that, I don't know if hermit is a right word, but someone that, doesn't leave the house, sometimes reportedly for just months and months.
Recluse.
Doesn't make appearance. Yeah, recluse is, yes, that's what I'm looking for. But just in terms of, the bad blood between him and Slash, and just how it all fell apart, I mean, I don't even understand. I remember.
I'll take over for a second. I don't know how it got so bad either. There's so many rumors, but and I was friendly back mostly with Slash and Steven back in the day. Actually, I was friendly with everyone but Axl. Axl, was the kind of prima donna kind of people are saying who's the biggest asshole in music.
In fact, Axl's
definitely one of them.
I've been asked 3 times to ask you that, so it's funny you're answering.
So I mean, he's definitely one of them. I mean, there's a few of them. Lars from Metallica is also a huge asshole. But but getting back to
is that more of an ego thing, or just
who knows? It's just how people come off.
Yeah.
It happens in poker too. There's tons of assholes everywhere. So you can't escape them.
So after Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 were released, they toured all over, and then it just seemed like they fell apart. And then, of course, there was the long.
I think it was the fame. It was the fame. They would go on late. You never know when they would go on, and that wasn't all part. Like I said, that was all part of it. Slash did not like Axl, just like taking his time. I go on when I'm ready. It cost him a lot of money. It cost him a lot of tension. Slash was definitely more of the drug addict. Slash and Steven were definitely more the drug addicts. I want to say Axl was the least of the drug addicts. Axl really, I don't remember Axl really partying much at all. But Axl, like I said, was a lunatic. Still is a lunatic. And this whole bullshit with the band, it kind of ruins the band. And that's, the state of the music it's music business that they ruined, I mean, this band's all, they're all well to go, and get back together and, respect rock and roll and make everyone happy. But unfortunately, they decide, Axl decides he does not want anything to do with Slash, and now Slash doesn't want anything to do with Axl. And it's a whole game, and it's just stupid. And it's just, like I said, it's depriving people of good music and good rock and roll history.
Absolutely. A lot of it, was appeared recently. Some point this year, I think it was right before the summer, but it could have been earlier, when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it made mainstream news when Axl announced that he would not show up, and then he released this rambling letter. That did you read the letter?
He's like, and
I tried to understand it, David, and I read it several times, and I really just couldn't even put it together what he was even trying to say. And again, I don't know. It's just I know you're so into this. I thought maybe you'd have more insight. And I thought a lot of it.
I ran into Axl. I want to say about 5 years ago. It was after the MTV appearance when he had the cornrows and everything. He came out. He had maybe a little more than 5 or 6 years ago. I ran into him at a club in L.A. And like I said, we were friendly in the past, but he was probably the least one I was friends with. But we ended up chatting for like an hour, and he is just odd. He was just rambling on, all just random stuff. He was going to open a restaurant here in Vegas. He was like seeking other opportunities. It was kind of when Guns N' Roses was, what do you call it? When they were kind of on their break. Which about 6 or 7 years ago, kind of when they really
were their hiatus.
Yeah, and Axl was, kind of who knows where he was, but like I said, I ran into him there, and we chatted a little, but like I said, he was always weird. I could answer who's the biggest asshole in poker.
Well,
me and Brandon might agree on it.
Oh, yeah, that there. Well, right then and there, folks, you guys are all smart enough and have followed me, and wow. If anyone does it,
Oh, I get it. That took me a while. That's
all. I guess a couple quick questions I got from a user named Lawn Cigar. He actually texted me, and he's listening, but I guess he's not in the chat. And I guess you already answered a couple of these. He wanted to know, David, who in your opinion was the biggest asshole, celebrity or cock rocker? And I don't know if Axl, is that your
you got people like him. Like I said, Lars was just always an asshole for Metallica. And if you ever listen to him, you could kind of understand. He just got this, I don't know, this obnoxious European. A lot of the Europeans are hard to deal with. But it's but rock and roll is there was still a lot of very cool but
yeah, absolutely. And also a final question from Lawn Cigar. He wanted to know. He says, David, were you ever around to witness any of Keith Moon's benders?
No, that was before me. Keith Moon was a little I basically was first getting into rock and roll when Keith Moon passed away.
Okay, well, the Lone Cigar. There you have it. In these days, David, what do you? What's like? I guess what's a normal day in the life like for you here in Vegas? And again, I know a lot of this, but a lot of people don't. So I don't. I know.
I've been trying to take it easy. I'm trying to enjoy it. Try not to get caught into the grind anymore. The poker grind is tough these days. Much harder than people know and people think. Trying to find other things to do, other ways to make money, other kind of ways, trying to see what more. I'm doing a lot with my photos lately. I've been getting a lot of placements in on some records and some DVDs, and people just buying them from my websites. So I'm trying to, not have to rely on poker. Maybe I'll enjoy poker more eventually again, because otherwise you get burnt out.
Is this the first time that you've had a long career? Has it ever been like this before? Is there something
last couple of years, it got a little burnt out. Just all the garbage that's going on. Like I said, there's a new scandal every day, and you get tired of it. Or just a new kind of war of some kind. Just new kind of you hear it's another stupid thing happening in poker. And you just get,
Dave,
get tired.
You of all people I can relate to what you're saying.
Hate being a victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. You hate being. Right now we can't. We have to live in America. We can't play online. We're like, come on, really? I mean, you could basically do anything else.
I assume you're familiar that South Point is going to be offering the first licensed poker site it's going to open a little over a month from now.
Right, but that's only going to be between it's Vegas, right? Vegas only.
No,
Vegas only.
The entire state. It will be in the entire. Not that really.
Okay, Nevada only. Nevada.
Yeah,
only.
Not that there's really a huge poker population. I imagine in Carson City or Reno or Tahoe, but yes, it will include the entire state. Is that something? Because I do remember just from transfers and things. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were an online poker player. You did enjoy playing, and you did play a lot. I remember
ever since it started. I was one of the first, online poker players. I played on all the sites, and definitely, I didn't believe it at first when it came out, but I definitely believe in it now. And it sucks, like I said, we can't do it, but I don't think the Nevada only poker is the answer. We need the world to compete against, because I could even see that the sites that are still here, all those you can't even get games on them.
Yeah,
you can't find a game on a No Limit, and I'm sick of No Limit.
Yeah, I mean, I know just from the games in the past with you, you've at least. In the last couple of years, you've been playing a lot of mixed games, correct?
Yeah. I tend to like something different, and I think everyone else does too. I mean, you've seen more mixed games being offered now than there ever was, and they're definitely the game of choice of the higher players. So yeah, I think that's the way to evolve, and I think games like and something will take over. No Limit is. It's still, I guess, the biggest game, but it's not gonna, it's definitely gonna be threatened by other different games. I think people are just tired of it.
Absolutely. Are you still bowling? I know, and I didn't know this about you. You remember we had a long conversation at Red Rock. You're leaving a bowling league, and I remember you mentioning you're a pretty good bowler.
Yeah, I'm a pretty good bowler. We're off season right now. I don't know if we're getting it back together. We had a pretty good team of me and I was on a team with Todd and Angela Brunson, people like Frank Casella, Gavin Smith, Lane Flack. So it was a super poker league. Lots of gambling going on, lots
Lots of drinking, I can imagine.
Oh God, yes, yeah. Exactly. You named all the poker drinkers. Yes, Todd, Gavin, and Lane. Yes. But
wow.
But it was fun. No, Lane's an amazing bowler, and I'm pretty good. Gavin and Todd need help.
Well, listen, David, thank you so much for coming on. We have Christina Lindley coming on, who I don't really know her that well. She's
I know her. She's a nice girl. Good
poker player, and model as well. And
Do you know her well, David?
I don't know her well. I know her.
Do you feel like you could? Do you feel like you could interview her?
No, I can't.
Okay.
No, I know. I played with her a few times. She's actually a pretty good player. I like the way she plays.
Okay. Well, David will put in the word. We'll tell her you said hello.
Okay. At least she knows who I am.
Yeah. But what I want to say is I truly appreciate you coming on, and hopefully some other time. It just seems like you're the type of guy, and just judging by your chat, just kind of chilling and laying back and enjoying these stories, that you're someone definitely that our demographic, you could come on and just tell stories for hours and everybody would just love it. So
I'm good at shooting the shit and just kind of
yes
talking about anything. I could comment on lots of things. I have a few opinions. I'm not really opinionated, but I have a lot of stories and a lot of things I could tell you from what happened and so on. So yeah,
absolutely. So hopefully sometime, maybe a couple months down the road,
okay. You know where to find me.
Absolutely. And David, and keep in touch, remember what we talked about recently. Just keep in touch and send me a text every now and again, and I'm glad you seem well, just from a mental standpoint, and I'm glad you are a good guy. Not that I really even need to say this, but it doesn't matter. We've had our ups and downs a long time ago, but I will say this, and other people have said this, that you are a good guy, and you're one of the good guys.
Most people think so.
In terms of integrity and just everything else, there's never been any ever word said about you ripping anyone off or doing anything scandalous or shady. And I guess the worst thing I've ever heard about you is just losing your temper a little bit from time to time.
And a lot of people do it in many different ways. Unfortunately, mine brews a little faster at times. But we now you now see Daniel Negreanu rants on every single topic in poker every week. So
yeah, we actually had him on. We had him on yesterday.
Yeah. And he's he's we all rant. We all have our different, we all get, you saw, when people had the room where they, break everything, where they, when they got pissed on TV. Yeah. I saw some program. It happens, I watch sports, God, we've ever seen Tiger Woods not get mad, people throwing their golf clubs. It happens,
Absolutely.
Poker's a tough thing to, it's tough when, things change that quickly and, all of a sudden, you go from a big favorite to,
Absolutely. And no matter what, David, you and I will always have one common bond, buddy, that will tie us together. And I'm not going to elaborate any more on it, but that's
we don't need to publicize that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. But please, please keep in touch, and thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
For taking the time. Everyone loved the interview. I'm just still reading the chat. I'm getting some tweets and some text messages. And Johnny, did you have anything else for David?
David, thank you so much for taking part. Honestly, you tell wonderful stories, and I thank you for making it as easy an interview as possible for us. Since we're going into our 44th hour of broadcasting.
Yeah, you guys got to be tired. And remember, it's E-Rock Photos, my website. You want to see my history of rock and roll, basically, You follow me on Twitter at David Plastik, and you'll get tidbits of rock and roll history, and it's, always fun to read about and so on.
Awesome.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Keep in touch, and we'll talk soon. Thank you again.
Sounds good. Later. Bye.
Bye.